Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. I hope that you're all doing well. May Allah accept all of your good deeds during Ramadan, and I hope that you had a great time celebrating Eid al-Fitr. Welcome, brothers and sisters, to our weekly Islamic parenting live streaming. That actually happens every single Thursday at 6 Eastern. And today, inshallah, we are joined with Imam Husam al-Din Alam. Welcome, Imam.
Welcome to you, Sheikh
How are you
Muhammad.
doing? I hope that you're doing well.
Alhamdulillah, Barakallah Fik. I'm okay.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
very
much
much.
for having
And
me.
as you know, like Imam Hussein, he's the head of education at Muslimitun Institution, and he's also a member of Al Azhar Fatwa Global Center, a lecturer at Faculty of Sharia and Law, Azhar University. May Allah accept all of your good deeds. Allahumma ameen.
Ameen.
Today, inshallah, we have a really interesting topic. Like today, inshallah, we're going to be talking about the value of human equality in Islam, which is a super important topic that we all need to talk about and we all need to shade light on. So, inshallah, Imam Hussein, inshallah, is going to talk about this topic and highlighting this topic also, or highlighting the ayat and a hadith of the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam that actually talks about this topic. And yeah, Imam Hussein, would you please give us like an introduction about the topic we're going to be talking about today?
Indeed, yeah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, all praise due to Allah, the Almighty, the Lord of the world. May Allah's peace, mercy, and blessings be upon His final and last messenger, Muhammad. My best and warmest greetings to you, Sheikh Muhammad Eid, and to all the team at Muslimito Institute, and to all our dear respected viewers across the globe. Definitely, we are witnessing unprecedented times and events, and this is why I do think that it is very vital and very significant to address this issue of human equality um, in our modern times. We have been witnessing, as I have just said, very significant and remarkable events, and they have definitely ramifications and repercussions uh, on the whole world.
Yeah,
Definitely, given the fact that we live in a globalized world where all the four corners of the globe are closely connected, are intertwined. Any event that happens in one part of the world
yeah,
affects all other parts of the globe. This is why we cannot afford, as a global human family, to turn a blind eye or a deaf ear to any incident, especially when this incident has to do with the dignity
yeah,
of the human being. And I'm saying this because when we witness such events, Sheikh Muhammad, we can see that there is a common theme
yeah.
underlying all such incidents, and
Hmm.
that's basically the value of the human life. Why this is important? Because I would be very straightforward and very clear.
Yeah,
Definitely, I always try to be and do my best to be politically correct in how I phrase my statements on such sensitive topics. But definitely, we need to leave to our children
hmm,
and to future generations a world where the dignity of the human being is respected on all levels. And this is why we as individuals, definitely as parents, as communities, as institutions, as governments, as activists, as community leaders and faith-based leaders, we need to play our role when it comes to creating a discourse and a narrative as well
yes,
that really institutionalizes the respect for the human being on all levels, irrespective of one's ethnicity, one's language, one's background, social status, or whatever consideration. All are human beings, all have inherent um, God given uh, rights that they need to be observed and respected and even revered.
Yeah, mashallah. Thank you so much for your speech. Thank you so much for the points that you mentioned. And you actually reminded me of like hadith about the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, the Prophet and said like لا فضل العربين على أعجمين إلا بالتقوى والعمل الصالح. So like if we have like two like people, like one of them is Arab, well, the other person is actually like non-Arab, for example, like there's no actually
No
like nobody has the
superiority.
upper hand exactly,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
both of them are the same.
Yeah.
And you also reminded me of one of the ayahs mentioned in the Quran. Allah said, "Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum." So Allah all the time is actually given this, if we can say, an instruction, or given or establishing the idea in our minds that
Yes.
all of us are the same. So please, Imam Hussein, if I can ask you to please highlight the points that Islam mentioned um, about this point, which is equality and so on. Like how Islam actually emphasizes on human equality. Can you mention this point, please?
Yeah, this is definitely a very important issue to start off with. And I'd like to highly uh, emphasize also the 2 points that you have mentioned from the Quran. How is
Yeah,
it? This is always the stance of Islam and its sources of legislation and its uh, sources of thought. That it all of them they emphasize and highlight the fact that all human beings are equal. And as you have just alluded, Sheikh Muhammad, that the only and the sole criterion for preference when it
yeah,
comes to human beings in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the taqwa of the individual, is
exactly.
how pious this person is, how conscious they are and mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how law abiding the individual is. So by understanding this, this is the starting point of establishing societies
Mm,
where the respect of the human dignity and the human value permeates all the communities and all the dealings and all the interactions within this society. So I'm sure now the question on the mind of many of our dear respected viewers is, what does the Quran say about this? Because so often I find this on the social media, that so many of our non-Muslim friends they say that, okay, we have all of this all over the media, so where are the imams, the Muslim imams, or where are the Muslim scholars
yes,
who are to speak against this? So it is really great to have a platform like the one that we are on today, in
yeah. Thank
order
you so much.
to clarify all of this, in order to signify the stance of Islam as to all of these issues, as to all of these questions, and with
Yes,
regard to all of these concerns. And this is why I do urge all our respected viewers to share this live event, and even after it's over, because we are talking here about very important things. And as I mentioned before, it is through our endeavor and our effort to help educate our children, it is an opportunity for us as parents on the personal level, or as mature people on the individual level, to grow as well. So,
yes.
through helping our children and young people in general in
Mm,
our communities, it is an opportunity for us to be seized as well, to grow with them through acquiring more knowledge and being prepared or being equipped with the right uh, approach as to how to deal with all of these issues, especially in our age, Sheikh Muhammad, because any like all these events when they happen, they trigger an international outcry, and this is why we need to have our stance clearly expressed. With that being said, and without any further ado, let's look into the stance of the Noble Quran, and anyone who analyzes how the Quran speaks of the human being, you will feel you feel that, and you find that on an objective basis, that you are in front of a divine text that
Exactly.
aims to set the discourse right among all human beings. And this is why, for example, so many times we find in the Noble Quran the, not only some verses, but even entire chapters starting
Yes.
with Ya ayyuhan nas,
Yeah. Yeah.
addressing
Exactly.
all human beings.
I just want to comment on one of the points that you mentioned
Yeah,
now, mashallah. That all the time people, like whenever a situation takes place or something, people all
yeah,
the time say, so what about the sheikhs? What about the people? Why aren't they not talking about the point and stuff? So I'd
yeah,
like to thank you personally, actually, for mentioning and issuing this point, because all the time, like people actually, do not link the Islamic religion with the daily activities and stuff,
yeah,
and as you actually mentioned right now, that Islam is the religion that actually tells us how to live on earth. So Allah told us, for example, like you need to do one, two, three. So we just need to actually apply the things that Allah is asking us to do. So I'd like to thank you again for real for mentioning this point and talking about this point and highlighting this point. And I hope that all the parents actually try to actually raise their children on this point, not because it's good and bad, but it's because Allah actually said and Allah ordered, so actually get to follow His instructions. So, Imam, would you please give us like some ayat and just
yeah,
like elaborate like this
yeah,
point a little bit more by highlighting some ayat of the Quran, so we can get to actually
yeah.
know Allah's words, and we can actually like reflect this to our
Yeah.
day and community and stuff, please.
Yes, and most importantly, to teach our children as well,
Yeah.
and to show them and to connect them with these noble values of the Noble Quran. The verse that I'd like to start with here in this context, Sheikh Muhammad, is a very significant verse in the Noble Quran, and that's in particular in chapter Al-Isra. And that's
Yeah.
the verse in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. That's indeed. And here, like if we look into how it is phrased in the Arabic language, how the verse starts with walaqad, and in the Arabic language, we understand that this is to show emphasis and to
Yeah.
remove any
Grammatically, you mean?
exactly, and also from a rhetorical point of view as to the meaning of the verse and what it
Yeah.
aims to convey. So here, walaqad, so it is for indeed, definitely, verily, as if the Quranic verse is coming to address all the rootly issues that many societies are suffering from when it
Yeah.
comes to the idea of supremacy, when it comes to one skin color over another, or when it comes to social classes. So,
Yes.
with the way how the verse is starting, as if it is coming to reshape the understanding of the society and the community by saying
Yeah.
that indeed, since the creation of the human being all the way from Adam, and you see here the verse highlighting and stressing this point that it all of the human beings, they
Yes.
are the offspring of Adam.
Yeah,
And this is
and
what
that's the beauty of the Arabic language, mashallah.
exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
like it comes like so beautiful whenever somebody knows more about the Arabic grammar, so we can really get what Allah actually means
yeah,
in this phrase. So walaqad, so indeed, like Allah
yeah.
actually mentions
And
every
and
single thing from like the very past up to the
and
future,
this
right?
has always been the case. وَلَقَدْ
Okay.
كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, that we have honored. So this is why, from an Islamic perspective, always you
Mm,
find in the Islamic literature this idea that the human dignity and the human equality and human rights, they are God-given. This is
mm,
why they don't fall with prescription. This is why they don't need to be afforded from a particular government or a legislative body. That
yeah.
these are in
Like a built-in
visible.
dignity, you know.
Exactly. So they are
Exactly.
God
Like
given.
I'm created as I have
Exactly.
eyes, nose, whatsoever. I also have dignity. And who gave
Exactly.
me this? Allah gave me this. That's cool,
Exactly.
mashallah.
So
Yeah.
this is a significant part of how the verse speaks of this. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. So here it tells us clearly that this honor, this dignity is afforded to all human beings, irrespective of their the skin color, irrespective of the language that they speak, or any other thing. Not only this, as a matter of fact, but
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
we read in the Noble Quran,
Hmm.
we find that such, if I may say, biological variations, they are a sign, they constitute a miracle when it comes to the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is
Hmm.
why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Noble Quran, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ اخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُم.
Alwanikum.
That's among the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and among the miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the creation of the human being is this diversity, is this pluralism when it comes to the differences of the languages. How is it the human being can speak more than one language, and the human population has many languages, and also the idea of the variation or the diversity or the pluralism when it
Hmm.
comes to the color of the skin of the human being. So the point is, and this is the catch here, Sheikh Muhammad, that this is something to cherish. This is something to appreciate and to treasure, not something to be
To be
seen or
ashamed
to
of.
be or exactly or to be
Yeah.
viewed as a reason
So it
for
doesn't really matter.
discriminating. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I
this
mean,
cannot be a reason or a basis for discrimination or discriminating against human beings. Rather, as I said, this is something to be appreciated. This is something to think and to reflect.
yeah.
And when we put such verse with this understanding
Hmm.
in parallel with another verse in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the meaning of which is that we have created you from nations and tribes that you may know one another.
Yeah.
So,
وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل
yeah,
لتعارفوا.
exactly. And even before this, يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى.
وأنثى.
Still,
No أنثى.
exactly. So all human beings, we have created you from a single pair of male and female, and we made you into nations and tribes that you may know one another. And let's look into this verse together,
Yeah.
Sheikh Muhammad. How
Yeah.
is it
Please.
again? It starts with Ya ayyuhan nas. So it is for all human beings. And this is why it's a universal value, i.e., when it comes to the human equality and the human dignity. In addition to this, you have this very uh, powerful and balanced as well
Hmm.
approach of the Noble Quran of emphasizing repeatedly that this is a guidance that's universal, that these teachings, they are transcendent in the sense that they are not confined or limited to a particular group or to a specific ethnicity. Rather,
Yes.
This is why clearly we read at the very beginning, Ya ayyuhan nas. That's all humanity, all
All
human
human being,
beings.
all the world, every single
Exactly.
like alive person. That's amazing,
So
mashallah.
exactly. So this is the beginning. This is the very outset. Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we have created you. And many of our dear respected viewers, they ask, then why the Quran says when it speaks of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we, if Allah subhanahu
Yeah,
wa ta'ala is one and only. And
I
very,
get this question a lot of
yeah,
times. Why Allah say all the time we? Like we, why
yes,
we, not I?
exactly.
Yeah, please,
And this
like
is,
give us like an answer for this,
yeah.
please.
Yeah. So very in very simple terms, this has to do with the Arabic language, and this is what can be referred to as the royal we or the majestic we. So Allah
Hmm.
subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking in the sense of being the majestic creator, not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala consists of different entities or Allah has components. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beyond any of this.
Exactly.
So this is the royal we. And here there is a point that we need
So
to all of us to think about. How is it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is bringing our attention to a very important point that inna khalaqnakum, that we have created you, that you are created like this. So no
yeah,
one chooses the color of their skin. No
exactly,
one chooses their ethnicity or in which class they are born into. Rather,
exactly.
this is distributed by the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the rational human being,
Yeah.
any human being of sound reason, they cannot judge people based on something that they didn't choose.
Hmm.
So how come it would be possible for me or for any other individual to judge others or to hold others accountable for something that they didn't choose or they didn't decide on? So
Yeah.
rather, as human beings, we need to be humbled by the fact that we are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, given this striking variety of our languages, of our ethnicities, of our um, classes. All of this is to be embraced and to be cherished as a source of diversity and as a source of pluralism that, by the end of the day, brings about this ultimate big picture which shows the human civilization, as I
Hmm.
said, one where the dignity of the human being is respected.
Yeah,
So
mashallah.
you
Uh,
have something to say? I can see that you.
I was just about to comment on the points that you just mentioned.
Mhm,
That how great it is to feel that Allah is the one who gives you dignity. I do not have like this dignity because of
yeah,
somebody else. Like
yeah,
no human being actually gave me
yes,
this. I do not have this dignity because of my passport,
yes,
my language, my
mhm,
color, whatever, but I just have it because of Allah, like the one that like created me and so on. So
exactly.
you know, which is more valuable, to be honest. Like I feel more valuable because like I'm actually supported by Allah, the one who gave me this dignity and so on. And
Mhm,
also I'd like to highlight this point that you actually like, or to sum up the point that you mentioned right now, which is the we of Allah,
mhm,
like the Allah mentioned, which I think that we're going back again to the Arabic grammar. I mean, like in Arabic, if you'd like to give somebody like more honor, we use we to
yeah,
honor the person, right?
yes, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. That's why all the time you find in Quran we, like Allah all the time like uses this one, mashallah. So
So
brother,
we're
like
still talking about this
yeah,
verse in particular, because
yeah, yeah,
we
exactly.
still can draw many points of reflection and
Yeah,
extract
sure,
many
sure.
morals to internalize from this verse. So how's it Allah
Yes.
subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "O mankind, O humanity, O children
Hmm.
of Adam, we have created you from a single pair of male and female," highlighting the
Yeah,
equality of both the male and the female, that both of them, they are the source of the existence of all of this population, and both of them are equal. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't speak only about one of them while neglecting the other. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, and this is another point here when it comes to the equality of both males and females,
Yeah.
both the man and the woman, and how important is each and every one of them for the continuation of the human presence and the human civilization. So the verse then goes on to clearly declare وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ. And it is the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that has decreed diversifying us into different nations, into various communities. So what is the reason behind this? Then this would be the question, because someone would be uh, justifiably saying, then uh, why wouldn't it that we are all the same, or equal the same?
Yeah.
Can you imagine how
Yeah, which a
boring?
question. Why aren't we all rich? Why aren't we all like, for example, red?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be super weird to be red, you know? I mean, we're
Yeah.
gonna have so many colors.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. And the Quran provides the answer for all of this, because if
yeah,
people are all rich, then no one will work. Then there will be no productivity. Then
yeah.
there will be no human advancement. There will be no progress, because there's no need for work. And this is why Islam lays the foundation for a healthy society,
Mm,
where when the human being is afforded this dignity, and when they work, they can earn more, they can
yeah.
progress, they can develop. And this is how we have, or we end up having a healthy, dynamic, and vital, and vivid society, where
Mm,
everyone is here to contribute. So this is the point, that when we want to assess an Islamic value, or something from an Islamic perspective, we need to look into the whole picture, and not to decontextualize any thing. So
that's the آية ورفعنا بعضكم فوق بعض درجات.
يتخذ بعضكم
Yeah,
بعضا سخريا. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So
exactly.
this is exactly the point. So everything is for a reason. Everything is for a wisdom. And this is something which is very vital, and we can even dedicate Sheikh Muhammad an entire webinar to talk about this, and the idea of this idea of rationale when it comes to legislation
Mm,
under the Islamic theory, in the Islamic jurisprudence, I mean. So back to the verse again,
yeah, please.
which is in Surah Al-Hujurat, and also we
Yeah,
have a similar one in Surah An-Nisa. So, but this one, of course, is chapter An-Nisa.
yeah,
So here, but I mean, the point is that's in both verses.
yeah.
How is it they address the equality of the human being? That
Mm,
what matters is the value of the human being. And
yeah.
in the verse that reads لِتَعَارَفُوا, i.e., to get to know one another. So the
Mm,
point of having this diversity when it comes to the human family, it
yeah.
is to get to know one another. So the Quran is very clear about this. It is not to wage war against each other. It is not
Mm,
to despise each other, or to loathe each other. It is not to discriminate against each other. Rather,
yes.
it is a reason for us to enjoy,
No more.
and to treasure, and to
Yeah,
appreciate getting to know one another. And this
yeah.
is why getting to know one another is the basis for peace, and peace building, and peaceful coexistence, because
Mm,
you cannot like coexist with someone that you don't know. So this
yeah.
idea that we have different languages, we have different shapes, it is a reason for triggering the curiosity of the human mind to know one another, to
Yeah.
find out more about each other, and thus knowing how we can cooperate, how we can uh, help each other, how we can come together to address all the challenges that we have ahead of us as human beings. And
Yeah.
definitely, these are all meanings that are very foundational, because let's look for example at
Hmm.
the current pandemic. It is not only a threat to one ethnicity or one country
So all
or
the human
one
being,
speakers
all the
of
humanity
the
are.
topic. It is
Yeah.
all human
It's
beings.
actually.
So also, this is such pandemic, the coronavirus or COVID-19. It's a reminder of our common humanity, that we are
Yes.
all united when it comes to the essence of the human being, and the
Hmm.
challenges that face the human being. They are the same, and they do not discriminate against one another. So this
Yes,
is
exactly. And that's what happened. Like you find, for example, actors are being infected, really, really poor people are being infected, people in like in a super healthy environment are being infected, and so on. So subhanAllah, like it's just for all the human being, and we're all the same at the end of the day. Like
yeah,
we may look different from the outside, may look different, and while you were actually talking about this point of being different, I was thinking if everyone in the world is the same, so like all of them are like me, like we're all the same, everybody's the same, nobody's different. So why should I make friends then? It's gonna be super boring.
exactly,
Like why should people
exactly.
marry? Why should people
Yes,
work? I mean,
yeah.
like there's not gonna be a manager, there's not gonna be like workers, there's not gonna be like doctors. I think that people are like gonna find something to do, in the
Exactly.
future.
And life will be very boring.
Yeah,
Like
subhanallah.
there will be nothing to enjoy, or there will be nothing interesting, or nothing to look up to, or to be excited about even. So this is why we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
And again, when the verse that you
Yeah,
have
please.
mentioned, and it was very uh, uh, great that you mentioned it, Sheikh
Hmm.
Muhammad, the
Hmm.
verse in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum.
Hmm.
That the most honorable of you in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is
Yeah.
not your ethnicity. It is not
Yeah.
the color of your skin. It is not whether or not you have a bank account, irrespective of
Yeah.
how much you have in it. It is not of
The
uh,
car.
how wide your house or your home is.
Yeah.
Rather, it is inna akramakum indallahi atqakum.
Yeah.
That's the more, and you see atqakum. That's this idea of showing who is more. So this is what we need to be motivated to always
Hmm.
be competing in, not in amassing wealth, not in accumulating materialistic uh, positions. Rather, who is more pious, who
Yeah.
is more mindful, who is more conscious of Allah subhanahu wa
So
ta'ala.
we can say it's like the Islamic currency, right?
In a sense, definitely, it's very interesting to put it this way. Yeah. So what
Yeah.
matters in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as this world comes to an end and the hereafter, is how pious, how conscious, how
Yeah.
mindful the human being is. And when we, very briefly, for our non-Muslim respected viewers who are watching or listening to us now, when we
Yeah.
speak of the concept of taqwa, Sheikh Muhammad, it's a very great and powerful human value, how to be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that when you do good and when you abstain from that which is not good, you are doing
Yeah.
this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not
Yeah.
because of surveillance cameras being over you. And when there are no surveillance cameras or no someone watching, then people start to do like unlawful
Bad
things.
thing,
So this is a
steal.
very important value. Like imagine how our societies and how our communities would
Hmm.
be when you have an individual who prays 5 times a day, when you have an individual who has internalized and who has this concept and this notion and this value of being mindful of what they do,
Hmm.
internalized and hardwired within their own minds and within their own hearts. So,
Yeah.
what kind of society that we will have? And this is what Islam seeks. And this is the outcome of the presence of the Prophet ﷺ among the companions.
Alayhi salatu wassalam. May Allah be
So,
pleased with him. Allahumma ameen.
so you see, so it is possible with disseminating the right knowledge, with
Yeah.
raising our children the right way, we can have such healthy societies and communities. And this is our role as individuals, all of us, not
Hmm.
only certain individuals in our communities, but all of us, we have a role to play. We have a role to play, as I said, for this to be the status quo. The
Hmm.
status quo should be that all human beings are equal, and I cannot have enough of repeating it. With
Yeah.
that being said, I'd like to share a story here with you, Sheikh Muhammad, and
Yeah, please. I'd like to listen to this one, but like before I get to listen to your story,
please.
I would just like to comment on the point that you just said right now, because like so many people think that Islam was created for the century of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, whereas it was just like created for the Muslims and Sahaba in the past.
Mhm.
So so many people say that Islam isn't actually updated or isn't up to date, but Subhanallah, if a human being made of this religion or something, we can say, yeah, by time it will be needed to update it and stuff. But subhanallah is created by Allah, the one who knows what's going to happen in the future, what happened in the past. And subhanallah, Islam can go with all the times, whatever the situation is, whatever the country is. Subhanallah, like as you said, like the point of cameras and stuff, let's just imagine, like when you were actually saying this, I try to imagine this point, like no cameras, no security cameras at all. So everybody's just paying attention to like not to do bad thing, not because of security cameras or something, but just because of Allah. Just imagine if people actually reached this
Yes,
level of having taqwa, like
yes,
things are gonna go to the best level ever for real. Like
exactly.
no, like there's not gonna be police in the future. I mean, like we will need to find these people job in the future. I mean, like for real, like there's not gonna be stealing, there's not gonna be like people doing bad thing, people not gonna cheat,
Yeah,
and community is gonna go in the best way ever. And this is subhanallah, the like Allah's plan for us to live in the best way ever. So
yeah,
thank you so much for mentioning this point, and how cool it is actually understanding the words of Allah, not just reading the words of Allah as some people do, but also
totally.
understanding the words of Allah and trying to relate these points to our community. So thank you so much, Imam Hussein, for mentioning this point.
No
And
problem.
please tell us about the story that you wanted to mention. I'd like to listen to it for real.
Yeah, thank you so much. So it's a very uh, powerful story
Yeah,
because it's very relevant to today's topic,
yeah.
and it happened during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
Alayhi salatu wassalam.
and it's very significant because the parties to this story
Hmm.
are the companions of the Prophet peace be upon him. So
Alayhi
one
salatu
day,
wassalam.
two of the companions of the Prophet peace be upon him, they had a misunderstanding, and
Hmm.
of course this happens even among the companions because you understand that they are human beings.
Yeah,
And
companions, the friends of the Prophet, the people that
yes,
lived with the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam.
yes.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
they had two of them, they had a misunderstanding.
Happens.
So exactly. So one of them said to the other, "How come you would do this, you son of the black woman?"
Hmm.
So he hurt him
Sure.
by mentioning that he is the son of a
Black.
black woman.
Yeah.
So the companion who got this or who received this, and this was seen as an insult to this
Hmm.
companion from the other companion. So when he heard this, he got to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right away,
Alayhi salatu
he
wassalam.
went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yeah.
And as he informed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet got very angry.
Hmm.
And we know that how was it always the Prophet ﷺ was always smiling, was always
alayhi
gentle,
salatu wassalam.
was always calm. But
All the
when
time.
he learned about this, he got very angry,
Hmm.
and he summoned the companion who said that statement. And in a very disapproving manner, the Prophet ﷺ said to him, أَعَيَّرْتَهُ بِأُمِّهِ, that you meant to insult him,
Hmm.
mentioning his mother.
Yeah.
Then the Prophet ﷺ went on to say, إِنَّكَ امْرِئٌ فِيكَ جَاهِلِيَّةٌ, that still you have the traces of ignorance and uncivilization in your mind.
Hmm.
So imagine such words coming from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to
Alayhi salatu
teach
wassalam.
not only this companion
Hmm.
or the rest of the companions,
Hmm.
rather to make it very clear to all generations till the day of judgment
Yeah.
how unspeakable and how unacceptable and
Hmm.
how horrendous and horrific it is to discriminate against people, even with just words or labels, while aiming to hurt them or to discriminate against them.
Yeah.
So here you see how is it the Prophet ﷺ, who is
Alayhi
always
salatu
keen
wassalam.
to raise and to cultivate
Hmm.
noble values in the
Hmm.
companions, and to clarify the teachings of Islam in this regard, which are
Yeah.
the teachings of all prophets and messengers. Because also when we look into the
Alayhi
noble
salatu wassalam.
Quran and the previous scriptures, we see
Hmm.
that this is one of the main objectives of the mission or the prophethood or the messengership of each and every prophet and messenger, all the way from Adam,
Yeah.
David, Moses, Jesus, peace be upon them all, and finally with Prophet Muhammad. This is a core value and a
Hmm.
core teaching that all of them highlighted, that the dignity of the human being. And this is why they were always resisting the idea of enslaving the human being, or that certain human beings need to be in the service of others
Hmm.
just because of their ethnicity or their social class. So this is a common core issue of all prophets and messengers, and
Yeah.
all the revelations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed across the centuries. So here the Prophet ﷺ tells him clearly that this is totally against with what Islam is all about. This is
Yeah.
totally against with all what prophets and the messengers came with.
Hmm.
That since the aim and the purpose and the objective of Islam is to eliminate and to eradicate such, um, if I would say, racial supremacy or
Hmm.
discrimination against the human being on the basis of the race or the color of their skin, the
Hmm.
Prophet ﷺ said to him, this is a trace of ignorance. Only an ignorant person would deem it
Do such thing.
a reason of supremacy or over others, or a reason for discriminating against other because of the color of their skin. So, you want to say something, Sheikh
Well, I
Muhammad?
was I was just like commenting on like a really
Yeah,
sweet thing that you mentioned now, that all the time you say human being, human being, human
yeah,
being. Like you were not actually talking about males, where you're not talking
yeah,
about females. A lot like didn't actually give like males a dignity, or like females, but like
yeah,
what you actually mentioned, which is like super interesting and a misunderstanding for so many people. So many actually talk about this point, and we have a lot of misconceptions about this point, which is like the male and female. So would you please highlight this part, or highlight this point, like the males and the females dignity? Is there a problem in Islam? Do you think that Islam gave an upper hand, for example, for the males concerning the point of our discussion today, which is dignity?
Definitely, Islam is very clear in this
Yeah,
regard, and it affords both the man and the woman, or the male and the female, the
yeah.
same honorability and the
Hmm.
same noble status and the same dignity. And when it comes to reward, they are the same. So there is nothing that says when the man does a good deed, he will get more than that the woman gets when she does the same good deed. So
Yeah,
they are totally equal, and they have the same rights and they shoulder the same responsibilities. So
yeah.
this is the stance of Islam in this regard. And definitely it would be really great to dedicate a webinar on this topic, speaking of the noble status of
Hmm.
women in Islam, how
Yes.
that Islam recognizes the dignity and the equality and the right of woman to have her independent uh, wealth, and her right to be involved in the society and
Hmm.
the crucial issues of the society, and when it comes to learning and access to education and
Yeah,
contributing to the society, and having access to have a say when it comes to the political realm, and
yeah.
how everything is run in the country. This is a very important topic, and definitely it would be really great.
Subhanallah, as a lot of people misunderstand this point and
Yeah,
misunderstand how
yeah,
Islam actually dealt with women. Like I believe this is a way of our topic, but just to mention that Islam isn't actually like differentiating between like a
yeah,
man and a woman when it comes to dignity. All of them are totally respected. All of them are totally or fully appreciated. It doesn't
yeah,
really matter. Like we can actually conclude what you said. Like it doesn't really matter what my color is, what my language is, what my
yeah,
background is, like what the job, what do I do for a living. Actually, it doesn't
yeah.
really matter as well. If
As long
if
as
I'm a
it's
male, a
lawful, of course.
female, yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
what actually matters is, as I said, like taqwa, which is actually the most important thing and the thing that we should all the time seek for and the thing that we should all the time work on. So at the
Yeah.
end of the day, we can actually get to apply, or we can actually get to do the instructions that Allah actually all the time asks us to do. So,
Definitely.
Imam Hussein, would you please actually talk a little about the like how effective it is to raise our children in the view of the value of human equality?
Yeah, this is very
Yeah,
important. And in view of this
yeah,
question, I'd
please.
like to continue the story
Oh,
of the
please.
Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the companions,
Mm,
because it's relevant also to your question, Sheikh Muhammad.
yeah, please.
How is it when the companion who uttered these words, when he heard the position of the Prophet ﷺ, right
Alayhi
away
salatu
he
wassalam.
went to the other companion.
Yeah.
And, and I need you now and all our dear respected viewers
Hmm.
to imagine and to picture what this companion who said this did in order to seek the forgiveness of that other companion.
Yeah. You
He
mean the
went
one who insulted the other,
exactly,
like
yeah,
if you could say
yeah,
insulted the other companion? Yeah, please.
yeah. So he went to his house,
Hmm.
and he placed his cheek
Hmm.
on the floor,
Well,
and he was old, and he was not like in his 20s or young. Rather, we understand that like according to narration, he's in his 40s or in his 50s.
whoa,
So
which
he
is
went because the words of the prophet were very powerful, that
sure,
this
sure.
is an act of ignorance, that this is uncivilized. So the prophet ﷺ, with such words, he motivated this companion to do everything in his power in order to rid himself,
Hmm.
and, if I may say, to purify his character from
Yeah.
having such quality, which is being ignorant
To seek
and
forgiveness.
uncivilized. So this is
Yeah.
why he sought the forgiveness of the other companion. So he went to his house. He placed his cheek on the floor, and he said
Whoa.
to him, "I would never raise my head from the floor or from the ground until with your feet you place it and you step on my head, so that I have nothing left of the traces or the qualities of ignorance in my head and in my mind and in my character.
Oh,
So,
that's the mind blowing story. To be honest, like I can
exactly,
even visualize this one. Like I mean, like
exactly.
50s man, like man in his 50s is doing this. So
So,
like yeah,
and it is well known that such an act, to place one's head on the ground or on the
yeah,
floor, this is very powerful, and it is very humiliating. But
yeah.
because of how unspeakable he understands
Hmm.
that this is such a crime and unacceptable act, he did this. So, what
Subhanallah.
was the reaction of the
The other
companion
Sahabi. Yeah,
of the
please.
of the Prophet ﷺ?
Yeah.
He
Alayhi
lowered
salatu wasalam.
himself, he raised him up, and he embraced him.
Yeah.
And they embraced each other, and they forgave each other, and he accepted his apology for what he did. So,
Subhanallah.
such story exemplifies and symbolizes how Islam is very clear when it comes to engendering and instilling in all the members of the community the dignity of the human being, that all
Yeah.
human beings are equal, that none of them can be discriminated against on the basis of their color, or on the basis of their ethnicity, or their social class. All of them are human beings. With that being said, let me delve more into teaching our children the value of the
Yeah.
human equality. We need to share with them all of these stories
Yeah,
and all
please.
of these values of the noble
Hmm.
Quran.
Hmm.
And the most important thing is for the parents to be the role models for their children, because and I'm saying this with with a very sad heart, that
Hmm.
in some uh,
Families, if you
places,
can say.
in
Hmm.
some places,
Hmm.
I'm trying to be like very selective of my words. You,
Yeah.
you, you can find that it is acceptable to some extent to have even some sort of what can be described as jokes when it
Hmm.
comes to people's skin color. So this is very negative, and as parents, we need to avoid this. We need to be very cautious
Hmm.
when as we raise our children, when it comes to uh, making remarks that speak of or that touch upon one's color of skin, and
Yes.
and as if there is a difference just because of their color of skin or because of their ethnicity. Or when we have in some parts of the world, there are jokes that people always say against or when it comes to a particular group
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
in the
Exactly.
community. So
Hmm.
all of these are negative things that are not allowed in Islam, and Islam came to deal with all of them and to eliminate all of them. And this is how the Quran came with a totally new discourse. So this is why I can sum up how Islam meant to institutionalize the human equality by first clearly warning in very strong terms
Hmm.
against discrimination
Yes.
and any act that uh, goes against the human equality. So Islam came with a very clear, explicit stance in
Hmm.
condemning this and eliminating this. And
Hmm.
Islam made it clear that all human beings are equal, and you see this even in the way how Muslims pray.
Yeah.
And most importantly, when it was the farewell sermon of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or Hajjat al-Wada, and
Yeah.
this was the
Alayhi
final
salatu wasalam.
meeting or gathering where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam met all the companions, and he made it very clear that there is no supremacy for any human being over another, except with how conscious and how mindful they are of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That this is the only criterion of judgment in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is only Allah who judges. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of his beautiful names is Al-Adl. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just. With that
Yeah.
being said,
Subhanallah. Hmm.
Another point that I'd like to
Yeah,
address
please,
here, Sheikh
please.
Muhammad, is how is it Islam
Hmm.
showed humanity in practical terms, human equality in practice. You see, Bilal, the one who used to be a slave and who came all the way from Abyssinia.
Yeah, Bilal, the
He
mu'adhin of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu
exactly.
wasalam, the one who
He
offers the adhan all the time. Hmm.
exactly.
Hmm.
So not only that Islam aimed to set him free,
Hmm.
rather Islam, in very practical terms, it assigned him, the Prophet ﷺ assigned him with a very
Alayhi salatu wasalam.
crucial task, and that's the task that we can understand, or we can phrase it in our today's terms as the minister of the media.
Yeah.
He was the one who would even
Yeah, it works.
send,
Like, yeah, yeah. I was
exactly,
just
you
like
see,
trying to connect like Minister of Media. Yeah, exactly. Like
see,
media. Like he was the one that offers the adhan, and he
exactly,
got this high position, subhanAllah.
you see.
That's a really great metaphor, to be honest.
So it was not only words that
Hmm.
Islam came with, but it even was practice that Islam showed this human equality in action. And here
Subhanallah.
also you see the magnitude of
Hmm.
the fact that the Prophet ﷺ highlighted this in his
Alayhi
final
salatu wassalam.
sermon. It speaks volumes of how the Prophet ﷺ, it's as
Alayhi
if Allah
salatu
subhanahu
wassalam.
wa ta'ala has revealed to him that still humanity will continue to suffer from this ill and from this disease in the human population of the idea of supremacy based on the ethnicity. And this is why the Prophet
Subhanallah.
ﷺ
Alayhi
reminded
salatu
all his
wassalam.
companions and reminded all humanity in his final sermon of the importance of the dignity and the equality of all the human beings. So this is why, as parents, we need to be very careful. First of all, by being role models to our children, and also I'd like to speak of how important the media is,
Hmm.
because also it is very sad. We see in some media productions the point that they aim, or some aim to be sarcastic when it comes to people's ethnicities,
Yeah, they
and
make
thus
jokes.
exactly. So
Hmm.
this is totally dangerous, and it has consequences, or I would even say it has ramifications on the minds of the people who consume and who see and watch this. And this is why, as I said, we all as individuals, we have the responsibility to set a global discourse that
Yes.
respects the dignity and the equality of all human beings. And we are
Yeah.
all responsible in this regard.
Exactly. We all should work for this, and we should all try to do our best actually to let this thing happen. And we all need to actually stand together to apply this point. Thank you, Imam Hussein, for mentioning all these great information about our great religion, the religion of Islam, that actually all the time tells us how to live on earth the way Allah likes us to live.
Mm,
And like your amazing story, like the ayat and the hadith that you mentioned about the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And what's really remarkable and actually touched me personally when you were actually telling the hadith, or if you can say the story about the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam and the two people who actually had this conflict, if you can say, or this misunderstanding. The prophet got super angry, not because of him. Like the
mm,
prophet didn't get angry because of him, but he got angry because he stood up to protect the others right and stuff.
mm,
And what's really sweet and beautiful, how this sahabi, or how this companion
mm,
reacted to this one, and he wanted the prophet to be glad at him. He didn't want the prophet to be sad at him or something. He wanted Allah to be glad. He didn't want to do anything against Allah's instructions.
mm,
So we can just get to have these great
mm,
sahaba as role models, as well the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And I believe that this thing never happened within the Sahaba. Am I correct?
yeah,
Like,
we don't like. we don't know of similar incidents.
Yeah, yeah, that يا أيها الذين آمنوا استجيبوا لله وللرسول إذا دعاكم لما يحييكم. So all you who believe, all you Muslims, all you human being, like if Allah actually gives us an instruction or something, please just say yes and get to do what Allah asks us to do. So at
Yeah.
the end of the day, inshallah, we're gonna get to live the life that Allah actually likes, inshallah. So
Mm.
Imam Hussein, like I believe that we like there are a lot of things actually to mention, and I cannot believe that the time actually already
Yeah.
passed an hour.
Yeah.
It was super interesting, conversation. I really like the topics, and I hope that
Yeah.
all of our dear listeners actually get to apply the things that we do.
Mm.
Please be, like, please deliver this message to other. Please let others know about the instructions of Allah. May Allah accept all of your good deeds. Allahumma ameen.
Yeah.
And I believe, inshallah, that you can easily join us, inshallah, next week, the very same time. So, Imam Hussein, like, can I ask you for a favor? If you can actually make
Mm.
dua for a couple of minutes, it's going to be super
Mm.
amazing. So we
Definitely.
can all say Ameen, and may Allah actually accept your dua. Would you like to do this?
Yeah, sure, sure. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
please. Bismillah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إنا نحمدك ونستعينك ونستهديك.
Ameen.
اللهم إنا نسألك بكل اسم هو لك سميت
Ameen.
به نفسك أو علمته أحدا من خلقك أو
Ameen.
استأثرت به في علم الغيب عندك أن تجعل القرآن الكريم ربيع قلوبنا ونور
Ameen.
صدورنا
Ameen.
وجلاء أحزاننا وذهاب
Ameen.
همومنا.
Ameen.
اللهم احفظنا بحفظك الجميل.
Ameen.
اللهم احفظنا بحفظك الجميل.
Ameen.
اللهم احفظنا من بين أيدينا ومن خلفنا وعن
Ameen.
أيماننا وعن شمائلنا ومن
Ameen.
فوقنا. ونعوذ بك
Ameen.
اللهم أن نغتال من تحتنا.
Ameen.
اللهم احفظنا بحفظك الجميل.
Ameen.
اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الوباء ومن
آمين.
الغلاء ومن
آمين.
عضال الداء.
آمين.
اللهم إنا نسألك بأنك أنت الواحد الأحد
آمين.
الفرد الصمد أن
آمين.
تصرف عنا هذا الوباء.
آمين.
اللهم إنا نسألك بأنك أنت القادر على كل شيء أن
آمين.
تحفظنا بحفظك الجميل.
آمين.
ثم إنا نسألك بأنك أنت الله الواحد الأحد
آمين.
الفرد الصمد أن
آمين.
تصرف عنا كل أنواع الوباء.
آمين.
اللهم استرنا بسترك الجميل.
آمين.
اللهم استرنا فوق الأرض وتحت
آمين.
الأرض ويوم
آمين.
العرض عليك يا أرحم الراحمين.
آمين يا رب.
اللهم إنا نسألك من كل خير كان
آمين.
قد سألك منه حبيبنا ونبينا محمد.
عليه الصلاة
ونستعيذ بك اللهم من كل شر كان قد استعاذ بك منه حبيبنا ونبينا محمد.
والسلام.
اللهم إنا نسألك من الخير كله
آمين.
عاجله وآجله.
آمين.
اللهم إنا نسألك بأنك أنت الغفور التواب الرحيم أن
آمين.
تغفر لنا ذنوبنا ما
آمين.
تقدم منها وما تأخر ما
آمين.
علمنا منها وما لم نعلم.
آمين.
اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا
آمين.
ولمعلمينا ولمن
آمين.
له حق علينا. وآخر
آمين.
دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. وصل اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. صلى
آمين
الله عليه
عليه
وسلم.
الصلاة والسلام. Thank you such Sam for this webinar. Thank you for all the information. Thank you for all the things that you shared about the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and also thank you for sharing this super important Islamic instruction that we should all do in our lives. And as you said during the meeting, if we can say that like it's all about taqwa, the thing that we all the time need to work on. Thank you so much, dear listeners. Thank you for like listening to us, inshallah. You can wait for the next one, the next webinar, which is going to be inshallah the next Thursday, and every single Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Please share us in the comment your feedback and your like your comments on today's today's topic. And please share us also stories if you would like to do, like share us like ayat from the Quran, share us some parts of the Sunnah that you actually read. If you have any question, if you have anything that you'd like to actually like ask us, please leave it in the comment. Inshallah, we're gonna make sure that we also we respond to it. Thank you all for listening to us. Thank you for following us. Inshallah, wait for the next one. If you would like us to talk about any topic, please just leave it in the comment, and inshallah, Imam Hussein will get to mention it, inshallah, in one of our webinars. May Allah protect all of the humanity. May Allah actually, may Allah accept all of our good deeds. Again, I hope that you had a really great Eid celebrating, the gift of Allah, and may Allah accept all of our good deeds. Allahumma ameen through Ramadan and also like the next days. Allahumma ameen. Thank you so much, dear listeners. Thank you, Imam Hussein, for this amazing one. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you next time. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم